You've probably heard it said that Jane Seymour was Henry VIII's one true love, the quiet, dutiful wife who gave him the son that he had been waiting for and who he mourned for the rest of his life. It's the way she's remembered in the musical Six. It's a story that has been repeated in countless history books. But was she really the only woman that he ever truly loved? Did he actually truly love her? And was Jane's reputation more about timing and circumstance and clever myth-making after her death? So, my friend, grab your coffee or your water and let's have a chat about whether Jane was the one that Henry actually truly loved. Hey friend, welcome back to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. I am your host, Heather. I've been podcasting on Tudor England since 2009 with my show. I am delighted that you are here with me today. We are chatting about whether Jane was Henry's one true love. So if we step back and look at Henry's track record with women, one thing becomes super clear. He was a man who fell hard, often, and very dramatically. He was like a man who was in love with the idea of love, and he wasn't shy about declaring his passions. In his 20s, he wept openly when his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, lost their children. He composed songs for her, and early in their marriage, he called her his most beloved wife. Later, with Anne Boleyn, he wrote letter after letter that sound like they came from a lovesick teenager, telling her he was struck by the dart of love. When he was arranging to marry Anne of Cleves, before he had even met her, he told his courtiers that he was consumed with excitement to meet her. And, he had the famous incident where he rode off to Rochester Castle to greet her in knightly, courtly fashion. But Henry's love always had conditions. It was about what a woman could give him: sons, political advantage, or just the thrill of the chase. When those conditions weren't met, the adoration could turn cold in like a minute. Catherine was set aside after 2 decades. Anne was executed when she failed to provide a son. And even Catherine Howard, his rose without a thorn, was condemned to death when she didn't live up to his expectations. I mean, look, she was probably cheating on him, which is its own thing. But for any other queen who was married to somebody besides Henry VIII, that would have gotten them exiled to a nunnery, not executed, right? So for Henry, a lot of it was just that she failed his expectations that he had of her. So Jane entered Henry's life at exactly the moment when Anne Boleyn's hold over him was slipping. By 1536, Anne had failed to give Henry a surviving son. Her sharp tongue, reformist politics had made her unpopular at court. Henry, who had once been utterly besotted with Anne, now seemed kind of restless and disillusioned. Jane, in contrast, was presented to Henry as Anne's opposite. She was quiet where Anne was outspoken, modest where Anne was flamboyant. Whether or not Jane herself was truly meek is another matter. We actually did a video on that when she stuck up for the rebels in the Pilgrimage of Grace. But either way, her family and her supporters carefully cultivated that image because they knew that Henry was ready for a change. Jane also came from a respected but not overly ambitious family, which made her seem less threatening after the drama of the Boleyns. For Henry, she appeared to embody a safer, more traditional kind of queenship, the sort that might finally bring him the stability that he craved. Henry wasted no time. Within days of Anne Boleyn's execution in May 1536, Jane was betrothed to him, and by the end of the month, they were married. The speed of the shift was shocking, even to people at the time, but it also shows just how ready Henry was, or had convinced himself that he was ready to turn the page. Jane's real triumph came the following year, when she gave birth to Prince Edward in October of 1537. After nearly 3 decades of frustration and disappointment, Henry finally had a legitimate male heir. His joy was unrestrained. He called Jane his true and most beloved wife. He ordered grand celebrations, and he planned her coronation. But of course, Jane didn't live to see it. Just 12 days after Edward's birth, she died from postnatal complications. Henry was devastated, and her death locked her image in perfection. Unlike Catherine of Aragon or Anne Boleyn, Jane never had the chance to disappoint him, to argue with him, or to fall out of favor. She had given him exactly what he wanted the most, and then she was gone, forever preserved in his memory as the perfect wife. Jane's death elevated her in Henry's imagination. Unlike his other queens, her memory was never publicly tarnished. In fact, Henry enshrined her in ways that made it seem as though she had always been his perfect match. Years later, artists created dynastic portraits showing Henry with Jane at his side, even though she had been dead for years. In the Great Whitehall mural by Hans Holbein, for example, Henry stands not with his living queen. For Henry, Jane became the visual embodiment of the dynasty that he had fought so hard to secure. When Henry died in 1547, he was buried at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, and in the space beside him was Jane. None of his other wives were even considered. That burial choice has often been used as proof of his undying love, but it can also be read more practically. Jane was the mother of the male heir, and so being laid to rest with her reinforced the image of the Tudors' great dynastic success. After Henry's death, the story of Jane Seymour as the only one he truly loved grew stronger. She had been dutiful. She had provided the heir. She had died before she could ever fall out of favor. And for later generations, she was the perfect foil to Henry's other wives. Catherine of Aragon was stubborn. Anne Boleyn was dangerous. Catherine Howard was reckless. But Jane seemed angelic and safe. Victorian historians especially leaned hard into this narrative, elevating Jane as the good wife who captured Henry's heart. Modern pop culture echoes it too, from documentaries to the musical Six, where Jane says that she was the only one that he ever truly loved. But even there, the idea is challenged. She sings that her love came with conditions, and those conditions were that she gave him what no other wife had, a living son. So was Jane Seymour actually Henry VIII's only true love? Probably not. Henry loved passionately, but he always loved conditionally. He loved Catherine in the early years. He loved Anne in the heat of their courtship. He loved Jane because she gave him Edward. What made Jane different wasn't that Henry loved her more, but that she died at the height of her success. She gave him what he wanted most, and she never lived long enough to disappoint him. That, probably more than anything else, is why Henry chose to be buried with her, and why she appears in his family portraits even after her death. Jane Seymour was not uniquely loved. She was uniquely lucky and uniquely remembered. So there we have it, my friend, a little bit about whether or not Jane was really Henry's true love. What do you think? Do you think Henry actually loved Jane unconditionally? Leave me a comment and let me know. I would love to know what you think. All right, my friend, if you want to check out that video on whether or not Anne truly was as meek as pop culture portrays her, here's that video I did on when she stood up for the pilgrims in the Pilgrimage of Grace. Here's a video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. Remember, my friend, you are deeply and truly loved. I am so glad that I share the planet with you. You make the planet a better place, and I'm glad we got to spend this time together chatting about Jane Seymour. Thank you for being here. I will be back very soon. In the meantime, don't forget to drink your water. All right, my friend, have an amazing day. Talk to you soon.